welcome to the Tea and a Butty podcast. I'm Dominic.
And I'm Erica.
Today's episode is all going to be about vegetarianism.
Yes.
The subject of vegetarianism.
Yeah.
Now, we are not vegetarians.
No.
So this is not going to be a go veggie preach.
Oh, right, yeah.
Yeah, in case you're thinking,
we're not
I don't want to talk about this.
We're not anti-vegetarians.
And we're not anti-vegetarians either. We've got nothing against vegetarians. They're lovely people.
We just thought it was an interesting topic. Actually, ages ago, one of our followers on Instagram requested that we do a more of like an animal rights
kind of thing,
episode.
And of course, there are ethical reasons for going veggie. So.
Yeah, so we're gonna kind of tie that in. But we wanted to do this episode because vegetarianism is a pretty big thing in Britain.
It's been a big thing for a while now, actually. You know, the Vegetarian Society was formed in Britain in 1847.
Really?
Yeah,
wow.
So that's quite a while. And that's Victorian attitudes for you. And there's people there going, you know what, we should not eat this meat.
Yeah.
And in 1944, a faction split from the group to form the Vegan Society, which was going even further. We shouldn't eat any animal products whatsoever.
That was in what year?
1944.
Really?
Yeah.
Veganism in 1944.
I mean, this is just a society. It's like a charity now. You know, it's like the Vegetarian Society. But it's been growing in, like, popularity in Britain for years. Mm. I think probably due to, like, foot and mouth disease.
I thought... That was always my theory as to why it was a bigger thing in Britain than it was over here.
Foot and mouth disease
because
was a big...
Because you guys have had a lot of issues over the years.
You know, like there was big ones in... there was big outbreaks in, I think, in the 60s. And then, like, the late 80s, I think. Mm-hmm. Which was, like, a major one.
Yeah.
And then again in, like, the late 90s. So it's like every 10 or so or 20 or so years, there's, like, an outbreak for some reason amongst the cattle. Foot and mouth disease is a highly contagious viral disease of the cloven-hoofed animals, and it does not have human health significance, so there's no...
Oh, okay.
There's no contagion.
So it was mad cow disease that you guys were having the problem with.
We were having mad cow disease, which was BSE.
Because I think foot and mouth disease kills the cattle off, so it's not good to have if you have cattle.
Yeah, it's not. No, it's terrible.
But you can't catch it.
You can't catch it. No. BSE, I think you can get.
Oh yeah.
And I think that was the problem in the late 80s. I think there was an outbreak of mad cow disease in Britain in the late 80s, and I think the late 90s, early 2000s, if I'm remembering right.
Yeah.
A lot of people were like, "Oh, what's going on with that mad cow disease?" You know, it's like, you guys eating hamburgers or something, you know.
I think it happened over here as well. Because I
think it was very downplayed over here, though.
It's caused.
It wasn't exactly COVID-19.
It's caused by feeding cows cow meat. It's
feeding your cow hamburger,
which is just horrendous. Yeah. So yeah. Anyway, I always thought that was possibly where the vegetarianism in Britain came from.
I think it contributed to the rise of it. Mm-hmm. I think, it's just, I don't know really. I mean, you can't really say really. I mean, why?
Now, the reason I'm saying it's bigger in Britain for anybody who has never been to Britain is now. And it all depends on it all depends on where you're from in the United States too. I think. I mean, we live in Texas. We live in Austin.
Which is kind of like the
hippie,
far
organic.
Out, man. Holy moly!
I don't know what that means.
That's holy moly. The hippie culture, you know. It's kind of like everything.
He's holding the peace signs up too, like far out, man.
Gotta love Earth and nature, man. Yeah. And the rest of Texas is very much like, I'm gonna have a steak tonight.
Well, Texas. I mean, our cattle industry is huge in Texas.
Well, yeah, of course, you know.
It's I would say one of the biggest, if not the.
Funnily enough, when I got
as big as oil, or almost anyway. Funnily enough, sorry.
funnily enough, when I got back, my first time I went to Texas, I went back to the UK, and I went for a job interview, and the guy, and it says, I just recently got back from Texas, so, you know. And the guy goes, "Oh, how was it over there? Oh, I bet the steaks were huge." Steaks, and that's what it's like. Oh, this huge steaks in Texas. Yeah, I'd love to go there. Yeah. Oh, you know, he was just kind of salivating about the thought of like having this massive steak, because I guess because of those roadside bars where you eat like a 20-pound steak.
Oh, right.
And you get it for free. You know, those kind of things. You know.
That's specifically the Big Texan in Amarillo.
The Big Texan in Amarillo. There you go. Is it 20-pound steak or
it's I don't know.
Or 10-pound steak?
20 pounds sounds like astronomical, so I'm thinking no, but it's something ounces.
Oh, it's in ounces.
20 ounces.
20 ounces? I don't know.
I've never done it. So, but yeah. Anyway, what I was saying is that, depending on where you're coming from, and it's not really true coming from Austin. Although, even coming from Austin, like going grocery shopping here in Austin, you do see vegetarian options in the grocery stores. Oh, of course,
yeah. I mean, there's like, yeah. I mean, that's one of the things I looked for when I was coming over here, because I like to make lasagna, and with Quorn mince. Because, you know, my dad is like, he's a pescatarian, I guess is what you call it. He eats fish, but he does not eat meat. Right. So no beef, no red meat, no chicken, you know, no pork, anything, you know.
Yeah.
So I grew up with a lot of vegetarian products in the thing, and I was sometimes, you know, if he was cooking, I'd have it, you know.
Yeah.
Too, you know, I'd be forced to, because, I mean, you know, I wasn't going to eat otherwise, you know.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I wanted to make things, so I was on the lookout for Quorn, and it wasn't really, it still kind of isn't really, in the stores. It was kind of like, where's your vegetarian section? Your vegetarian section is like very small.
Yeah, so that's what I was gonna say. I never really,
hidden away.
Before I met Dominic, never really looked for vegetarian meat options, because like when I don't eat meat, I just generally don't eat meat. I don't look for something to substitute as meat, you know? I mean, I would have like a portobello mushroom or like eggplant or something like that. I don't look for like something that's shaped like meat. Something that is shaped like meat but not
something
meat.
Something that's textured and shaped like meat and maybe has like a flavor, you know, like an artificial flavor of meat or whatever it is.
Yeah, I had never ever in my life that I can recall ever like got fake meat patties or fake meat, you know, fake chicken nuggets or fake
chicken nuggets,
whatever.
Yeah.
So I had never shopped really in that section. So I can't really say, you know, what it was like. Oh, I shopped in that section for the first time with you in Britain. And in Britain, the vegetarian section is
quite large.
Yeah, it's huge. It's
almost a whole aisle.
I would say almost at least a whole half an aisle.
Yeah,
you could probably find
the leading brands in the UK are Quorn, and Linda McCartney.
Yeah, which we don't have Linda McCartney.
You don't have Linda McCartney, and it's weird since she was American. You know, it's like that's weird that she never cracked the US market. Unlike her husband.
And, no, I don't know if they have it in other cities. They probably have it in like New York and LA, but but not in Austin that I have seen anyway.
Linda McCartney. I mean, my dad loves Quorn. He loves the Quorn sausages and the Quorn burgers and the Quorn pies. But Linda McCartney did some great lasagnas. She did. She did. I mean, no, I'm serious. I mean, you know. And her sausages weren't bad either, you know. So she had she had these.
They're not great.
Mozzarella burgers. Erica didn't like them. I remember when we went back in like 2014, and I think I stocked up on because for some reason I was craving Linda McCartney food, you know. And so I made like a Linda McCartney sausage sandwich, and you were just like, "No, I don't want it."
Yeah, I mean, I'm not big on British sausages anyway, so...
Yeah, you're not big on sausage anyway, except if it's...
Polish sausage.
Polish sausage.
Anyway.
Just a little tidbit of information for you there.
Vegetarianism.
Vegetarianism, Missy.
Yeah. But yeah, it's a big industry in Britain. What are the other big brands besides Quorn and Linda McCartney?
That's all I remember. I don't think there is any other ones.
Because
really.
in America we have Morning Star, but you don't have that in Britain.
No.
Morning Star is...
Quorn and Linda McCartney are both British companies.
I would say Morning Star is our biggest.
Boca.
We have Boca.
And Morning Star.
We have Quorn now.
Yeah, I've seen Quorn. Yeah.
Yeah, we've bought it several times.
Yeah. I'm really on the lookout for the Quorn, roast. Yeah. It's like a turkey kind of roast. Mm-hmm. And I want to, because my dad buys that sometimes, and it's great to, have, as a replacement for, a turkey or something, it's just a...
Yeah.
My dad would have that, maybe, as a replacement of a Sunday roast, which would traditionally be beef or chicken or pork,
Yeah.
Funny enough, it's in the 60s.
Yeah.
That's when the movement started, because, the 60s, oh yeah, hippies and all that. But in the early 60s, this restaurant opened in Carnaby Street called Cranks.
Oh, yeah.
And I haven't really looked it up, because I can't really find anything, but I'm sure that's what they called vegetarianism, because my uncle is a vegetarian.
That's what they called vegetarians.
That's what they called vegetarians, yeah. My uncle is a vegetarian. My gran always used to call him a crank. My gran wasn't a vegetarian. And she was like, oh, he's a bloody crank, he is. Oh, blah. And, when I saw this, it was like Cranks. I was like, oh, they must have all been called that. I thought that was just a name she called him. And it was in 1961, and there were very few vegetarian restaurants in the UK at the time. At that time over here, there probably wasn't any in the US.
Vegetarian restaurants? Yeah. I mean, that would require some research that we didn't do. I don't know. I really don't know.
And it was by no way the first vegetarian restaurant in the UK, because Sir George Newnes, the first baronet, opened a successful vegetarian restaurant in Manchester as early as the 1880s.
Wow.
In Manchester.
Yeah.
Which is, industrial town, which is, you'd expect to be like, hey, I'm going to eat my meat now. I'm going to eat my meat pie.
Yeah.
Because I like my meat pie, you see.
I mean, in my opinion, and this is just my opinion, I think that it is easier for people in cities...
Yeah.
...with access to all types of things.
Yeah.
To be vegetarians, to be vegans, etc., than it is for people in rural towns and out in the country.
Yeah.
And let's face it, poor neighborhoods. Poor towns, poor villages, poor whatever, they cannot afford to let, chickens running around just live free, and, they need to eat. They need the protein. They need to
eat what's there.
Yeah, they need to eat what they have access to, and what is...
As you were saying before, we're animals,
Yeah.
We need to eat meat.
Well, I mean, this is
just your opinion.
This could really cause
Ructions.
Quite an uproar.
Ructions, dear boy.
But yeah, I mean, I do not have anything against vegetarianism, against veganism. I respect why they're doing it. If they're doing it for ethical reasons, I respect why they're doing it. If they're
sometimes
doing it
for
health
reasons, yeah. I mean, you have to be. It's like, oh, I can't eat that anymore.
I mean, obviously,
because I'll die.
Well, yeah, obviously, too much red meat is not good.
It's not good for your heart.
That's been proven. So yeah, I understand.
Astonishing amount of ground beef in Texas, though.
Yeah, I mean beef. Yeah,
beef. Yeah, but there's an astonishing amount of ground beef.
Yeah,
and it's
because it's inexpensive.
I go to the supermarket. It's
inexpensive. Cheaper than steak,
And you go to this supermarket, and it's got 5-pound tubes of ground beef everywhere.
Yeah.
And to be honest, if we moved back to the UK, I'd be happy if we never saw ground beef again. There's just so much of it.
That is one fake meat that I can get on board with.
Because it's kind of like,
well, the things that you use ground beef in, like tacos,
we should try doing
what else?
Veggie
Spaghetti.
Tacos
one time. What else? What else do you use ground beef in?
Lasagna.
Sometimes lasagna, sometimes beef enchiladas. You can get away with doing the vegetarian...
Because I make that vegetarian lasagna,
because usually you have so many more ingredients in whatever you're using ground beef in that you don't really taste. You don't really taste the beef. So what's it there
for? Yeah.
Yeah.
And basically, they make the fake meat out of mycoprotein, which is a fungi.
Yeah.
Like a fungi, which has mycoprotein and soy and everything in, and they just kind of like do something to it that makes it taste like meat.
Yeah.
And, you're going to talk about the Impossible Whopper later on. I think it's very close. I mean, if I was just handed a burger and said, this is a burger, and it wasn't real meat, and I ate it, I wouldn't know the difference until someone said, oh, that wasn't real meat.
So let's back up a second.
Let's back up.
While we're still sort of on the subject of vegetarianism in Britain, we talked about the brands you can find in the supermarket and just the fact that you can find a lot of options in the supermarket.
Yeah.
In the fast food restaurants, which are all American, there's a lot of vegetarian options.
In McDonald's is a corn burger.
That do not exist in America. Until very recently, they've started coming out more and more. Everybody's coming out with sort of at least one kind of vegetarian burger or whatever. And Dominic and I, if you guys follow us on social media, this was quite a while ago now. We did the Impossible Whopper challenge when Burger King came out with their Impossible Whopper.
Yeah.
And
that's still on our
Instagram.
Yeah,
I think it's in maybe the food highlights.
Food highlights, yeah, you can go look at that.
Yeah. We did the challenge. Well, Dominic did the challenge on camera. And I tasted it off camera. Dominic couldn't tell the difference in the burgers.
No.
He said, he claims to have.
No, I couldn't, honestly.
And again, maybe this is because maybe this is because I was born and raised in a cattle-driven state. But as soon as I opened the Impossible Whopper, before I took a bite of it, and I think, did I put the blindfold on too? Dominic had the blindfold on, so he could not see. I think I must have done it too.
You said, yeah, I remember you saying this.
I said, this is not the Whopper. Because it didn't smell like meat. I didn't smell any meat.
I can't smell the meat.
I couldn't smell any meat.
Obviously I know what meat smells like, and, it's going to have a different smell to,
yeah,
thing, but I could not smell it.
I mean, when we drive past Burger King, you can smell the burgers being grilled.
Yes, and it's a very delicious smell. And I'm sorry to all vegetarians out
listening,
there. It's a very delicious smell, and,
So when I opened the Impossible Whopper, that smell did not exist. All I smelled was ketchup. I could smell the lettuce. I could smell the onions. I took a bite, and it tasted good. It tasted like a Whopper.
Yeah.
Without any meat. It tasted exactly like the Whopper, but it was just like... And I bit into what I knew was supposed to be the meat patty, but it just tasted like more just vegetables, It did not taste like any meat whatsoever. In my head, I was just thinking all these people in the commercial that are going, oh, it tastes just like and they have like a Texan guy there and his cowboy hat and everything. And I'm like, these people are clearly actors. They are all clearly lying through their teeth because this is not, it was good. It was fine. I would eat it again. But it was very clearly not real meat.
It was delicious. I think it was delicious.
And then I bit into the Whopper, and I was like, "Yeah, this is meat. This is the real Whopper." And he was just like, "Yeah, you're right." And I was like, "I don't even need you to tell me I'm right. I know I'm right because there's no meat whatsoever in this other hamburger. It didn't taste like meat. It didn't smell like meat. Nothing."
I mean, yeah, I mean, my favorite meat is chicken.
Yeah.
I'd say that was probably everyone's favourite meat. Since it's so popular.
I think people in Texas would beg to differ.
I know. I think that's the
people in coastal.
Tell that
to
the people
towns.
who go to Chick-fil-A every weekend.
That's true. People in coastal towns would beg to differ. I think.
And fish, yeah. I mean, fish and chips and everything, yeah.
Yeah.
But when I was a kid, I used to beg to go to Wimpy with my dad, and he'd be like, "Oh, okay," because my dad didn't really like fast food anyway.
Yeah.
So we'd go to Wimpy, and I'd get chips and onion rings and a Coke, and he'd have to get something too, because it's like I'm gonna eat, and he'd get this spicy bean burger.
Oh yeah. And
this was like mid-90s. And he was just sick of it. He used to eat it with a knife and fork. I remember he saw someone. And they said, "Oh, yeah, see my dad." And he gets up and he goes, "I was just thinking now, I am sick." He told this guy, "I am just sick. This is like the third time this month I've had this spicy bean burger." Because he couldn't get anything else. Because he didn't eat meat.
There were no other options?
I mean, in the Wimpy there was this Bender burger, it's called. And it was like a sausage kind of thing, but it wasn't a patty. It's like the sausage link in a bun. And I think they had chicken options, and they had regular like burger patties and everything. Yeah. But he doesn't eat meat.
I don't think you told.
Fish. When we go to McDonald's, the Filet-O-Fish story.
No, I don't think you told the story of why, because your dad doesn't eat meat for. Yeah. It's not ethical reasons.
It's because
really.
He thinks it's absolutely disgusting.
Yeah. He had a bad experience.
So my dad, he was on this ship, and the cook was terrible. Yeah. Pretty much. He was very bad, and on a ship, the cook has got to be great, Yeah. But apparently this cook could not cook to save his life. My dad wasn't really a big meat eater even then. But he says he remembers one day they were sitting in the mess hall or whatever it was, and the cook came out with this joint of beef, like, I don't know if it was like a roast or whatever it was supposed to be. Yeah. And he said it was it was like raw. Yeah. It was almost like tartare or whatever you'd say. Yeah. And he came out, it was a massive joint, he brought it out like all proud of himself, and he stuck a fork into it and it just bled everywhere. And my dad was just
oh my God, we are so sorry, vegetarians. Yeah. We should have put a warning on this story.
He said it was bloody horrible. Yeah. And he said after that I resolved never to eat meat again. I mean, I ate chicken and like pork and stuff, but I just kind of stopped eating them even then, Yeah. And then
he still eats fish and
he still eats fish and seafood and stuff, But yeah, he doesn't eat meat, and it's largely because of that. Yeah, he says I've never.
It just disgusted him beyond belief.
It disgusted him beyond belief. Yeah, and the thing is, I'm sure he's eaten meat at some point since then, because I remember him saying, "Oh, I had a bowl of cowl once in the Star." Yeah, and he said it was lovely. And then they told me, "Oh yeah, it had beef in it. It had meat in it." Yeah. And I was like, "Oh," because sometimes vegetarians who haven't had meat for a long time,
it makes them sick.
It makes them really sick.
Yeah, my aunt and uncle.
If they eat like too much of it, if you like have a hamburger or something after like 2 years of being a vegetarian,
they went vegetarian, like totally vegetarian, no fish, no anything, for. I don't know, like 2 or 3 years, I guess. And then my aunt started really craving shrimp. Like, she was just like, I can't, I cannot go any longer. I want, I'm dying for shrimp. And they ate shrimp, and they both got really sick. You could say maybe it was bad shrimp.
Maybe it was bad shrimp, yeah, maybe.
But they put it down to the fact that their bodies weren't used to it. But, they stopped being vegetarian after that, though, which you would think
you'd have to kind of like, if you were a vegetarian for a long time, because there's a lot of people who were vegetarians for a while, then they stop. Mm-hmm, yeah. They go back to eating meat, and then
Well, we heard this story, this YouTuber that we saw talking one time was saying that he started feeling really ill.
Yeah.
And this is not propaganda, you guys. I know this sounds like propaganda, but he was just, he's not an anti-anything. He's a British guy, actually.
Yeah.
And he started feeling really ill. He started thinking that something was wrong with his heart because he just didn't have
energy.
Any energy.
He was just kind of like, I think he was maybe a bit sensitive to light or something.
I don't know.
It was some kind of like he had these weird symptoms, and the doctor couldn't figure out what it was.
And the doctor was just like, have you had any changes to your diet recently?
Are you eating something differently? And he was as well, I'm a vegetarian.
For the last several months. Yeah. I've been a vegetarian, or since the start of the year or something like this. Yeah. I haven't eaten any meat. And the doctor was just like, well, you might consider putting that back in your diet.
Yeah. And he said, and I started eating meat again. Slowly, and I started feeling better. My energy came back, and and my I could focus again, and my strength and everything.
I think people just go vegetarian, and some people can do that, but some people have conditions where they really need the extra
iron or the protein,
stuff like that you get from eating meat. And so I think that some people really have to you hear about it all the time. You have to consult your physician and see if you are going to go vegetarian, possibly you're going to need extra supplements, or you need to seek out, specific things in order to get the same things from meat. Because, our bodies are made for meat, You can choose not to eat meat. I don't think I could totally
go vegetarian.
I mean, not meat necessarily, but our bodies need protein.
Yeah.
So, you have to be sure you're getting that, I would be interested to see how long I could go without...
I mean, same with me. How long I could go totally cutting out any kind of meat.
I think mine
not totally going vegan. I couldn't live without, cheese and dairy. Or milk.
Cheese.
So I don't understand how vegans can do it. I mean, it's like...
cheese,
there's a lot of vegan alternatives, but it's like... A lot of vegans I've spoken to say vegan cheese is absolute bleh,
Yeah.
And it's terrible because it doesn't contain milk.
I mean, we don't really eat a lot of red meat anyway.
No, we don't. Considering we live in Texas, anyway.
I guess we eat quite a bit of chicken, but that being said, we do eat pastas and vegetable kind of things. And like I said, when we do lasagna or even spaghetti bolognese, we often do use the ground beef substitute.
That could be like a challenge for us.
I think, I don't know if I could go...
Just eat salads. Ooh.
I don't know if I could go without fish, though, because I do sometimes just all of a sudden I really want, salmon.
Fish.
Really bad. I'm really craving salmon. Sometimes I get in those, cycles, Yeah. And I'll want salmon all the time for a while, Yeah. So I really don't think that I could
in
cut
a salmon-y mood.
I could try. I mean, the whole thing is just to try and see how long
I could live without seafood, obviously. I'm not a seafood fan. I'm not a shellfish fan.
Yeah.
I mean, I eat fish, I eat cod, and I eat tilapia and salmon.
Yeah.
But I don't eat shellfish, crab, lobster, any of that. I used to like scampi, though. Funnily enough, I probably could eat scampi.
Yeah.
Which scampi to me is like a breaded lobster tail.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Because we have something called shrimp scampi, and scampi is just the sauce that it's cooked in,
Sauce.
We have some interesting statistics really quickly before we wrap this up.
Yeah. Because
we were curious, what percent of United States and also Britain are both, if there's been any research into how many people are vegetarian, and of course there has been.
In 1971, 1% of U.S. citizens described themselves as vegetarians.
Yeah.
And then in 2008, another study found that 3.2% are vegetarian and 0.5% are vegan. So that's not too much of a growth.
Well,
It's a little bit, it's a growth, but it's not like...
it didn't sound like that much to me until you go up and look at the British ones.
Which, in 1989, a poll indicated that 3% of the UK's population was vegetarian. A more recent poll put it at 5%. This means there are over 3 million vegetarians in the UK today, and the movement is growing.
So there you go. 5% of the UK population is vegetarian and or vegan. Yeah. And that's 3 million people. Yeah. So I'm curious what 3% of the American population equals to as far as like millions of people.
Yes, yeah.
It doesn't sound like a lot.
Well, no, considering
and that's what, 30, 40 years?
Yes.
Yeah, so it's not much of a growth.
Yeah, because that's, yeah.
I mean, it's gonna be slow going over here. It would be interesting to look at the population of Scotland specifically, because they have a big cattle industry in Scotland as well.
They have a big cattle industry, and they do like their fried food.
So, I would like to look at like the population of just Scotland, let's say.
Yeah.
Since they have a big cattle industry, because like I said, the cattle industry is big in America, big in Texas, very, very big in Texas. And that makes a difference because you have people really pushing it because they are relying on that income. It's basically the same thing as all these people in America, particularly, that are forcing oil. You know what I mean? Yeah. They try to make, they try to emphasize the importance of the oil industry, and that's because their lives rely
livelihood and everything
on the oil industry. So I don't know, I just
gonna make that
think that
money.
Would be interesting.
In 2015, that's the poll, that was the recent poll. Okay. And it says 2017 adults aged 18 and over found that 8 million it's a survey of 2017 adults, found that 8 million Americans, or 3.4%, ate a solely vegetarian diet, and that 1 million, or 0.4%, ate a strictly vegan diet. Okay. So yeah.
I mean, that's quite a bit, Yeah, I was looking up, in Texas, because, Dominic was mentioning how you can't really say, oh, well, all of America, you can't really compare that to Britain because the population is so
vast, especially over here,
So since we live in Texas, I was looking up, Texas specifically. And of course, we live in Austin, and Austin is different than the rest of Texas because it's a university town, people are just really health conscious here. We exercise a lot. A lot of people go out, walking and all of that kind of stuff all the time. So, Austin made the list of the top 10 best cities for vegans and vegetarians.
Oh, yeah.
Which they said, is predictable. Oh no.
What's the top?
The top 20. We were number 13 in the list of the top 20 cities.
Poll winners concert.
And then Houston at number 17. The top 5 were New York, Portland, Orlando, San Francisco, and Los Angeles. Yeah, that's kind of funny, isn't it?
Orlando, yeah. I mean, I guess Orlando, because it might just be because Orlando's a big destination for
British expats. That's very possible.
Yeah, and other people too. I mean, a lot of people from the East Coast and the Northeast Coast move down there, don't they? So
surprisingly, Dallas and Plano made the top half of the 100 city list. But then El Paso was the lowest ranked Texas city at number 81. And Amarillo didn't even make the top 100.
Amarillo, you're not going to find too many vegetarian restaurants in Amarillo.
Oh, no. I have a cousin who tried to go vegan, I think, and she lives in Amarillo. And, because she's very, into save the whales and save the animals. And I think maybe she might even be, into PETA. I don't know, So she was she wanted to do it. She believed in it ethically and everything, but she just physically could not do it because there were not enough options to eat.
You'd have to eat the same thing over and over again.
At the time, she lived alone, so I don't imagine she cooked. I didn't really get super in depth in the questioning. What about this and what about that? But at the time, she lived alone, so I'm sure she probably didn't cook. She probably ate out a lot, and in Amarillo, there's not going to be virtually any. To eat, the French fries.
French fries and that £5 steak that I was talking about.
yeah.
20-pound steak, whatever it was.
Yeah. Interestingly, the lowest cost of groceries for vegetarians were San Antonio. Let me see. San Antonio made the top 5, along with Corpus Christi, Houston, Austin, and then Louisville, Kentucky. But there were 5 Texas cities in the lowest cost groceries. I don't know what that's all about.
Well, I mean, it just could be just the cost of living in those cities. Maybe, probably.
Yeah. Although the cost of living in, I think, Houston and Austin is fairly high. So I thought that was interesting. Texas bottomed out in other rankings. El Paso, San Antonio, and Laredo were in the bottom 5 for the lowest percentage of restaurants serving vegetarian options, and Laredo led the way with the fewest salad shops per capita.
Salad shops.
Yeah, I don't know. It's vegetarians and vegans need to eat salad.
Just salad is all you can eat. But yeah. I think that's it.
Yeah, I mean, we could go on,
but yeah.
Let us know if you are vegetarian or vegan, and which products you buy.
Yes.
You find yourself buying in the grocery stores. Let us know if you have Linda McCartney products in your grocery store.
Linda McCartney foods.
I don't know I don't know if it's anywhere in America.
I have never seen them at all, and they're pretty prevalent in Britain. I mean, they're a big brand.
Yeah. But yeah, I think we could keep
go
going,
on, but we shan't.
But we shan't. Yes, we're running long these quarantine days, man. We're just
man.
Yeah, man. These podcasts, these quarantine podcasts, are just out of control.
Out of control.
As a totally random and completely unrelated topic, if you follow us on social media, you will see that. Speaking of quarantine, that we've been going out walking a lot. We do anyway, though.
We do anyway, yeah. We're always walking. Walking here, and walking there.
And we live near a green belt.
Everywhere.
And, it's springtime, so we're seeing a lot of animals and everything. But we've had a lot of comments on Instagram about our animal-related content.
Animal rescue, yeah.
I just wanted to say a little sorry about that.
Sorry if you're not into animals.
Yeah.
We've got deer, we've got turtles.
Snakes.
We've got snakes.
Frogs. Yeah, all kinds of things. I've got a little video of a heron coming up.
Got a little video of a heron. You won't want to miss that, everyone.
Oh my god. Okay, we gotta go. If you like animal content, check that out. We cannot promise that it will stop anytime soon because we find it very interesting. Thank you as always for listening, and we will talk to you next time.
Bye.